Hello. Yes, I am back. It's good to be back, especially because the reason I'm back is because I am feeling well enough to stream. So I'm hoping that as time goes on, I feel well enough to stream every day. I hope so, until I can't. But I realized when I was setting up this stream that my last stream was 3 days ago, which is distressing. So anyway, I wanted to open with some odds and ends. Welcome, Snutter. Welcome, my lovely Raven. Welcome, everyone. All right. First, don't ask me about what happened with Justin Baldoni and his case, because I haven't looked into it. I have no idea. I'm seeing a lot of conflicting information, and I don't want to offer up an opinion without at least looking into it. So I have nothing to say about the Justin Baldoni Blake thing. Hi, Jarella. Good to see you. All right. That's point number one. Point number two. Now, you guys know that I have talked quite a bit about Harry and Meghan on this channel. But I have also said that I think that there are occasions where the nitpicking and the criticism of Meghan Markle is a bit much. All right. So today I am going to offer a defense of a kind of Meghan Markle and a criticism. I think that's very fair. All right. Now, on the occasion of her daughter's 4th birthday, Meghan released video of herself in the delivery room dancing around. Some people said it was twerking. I mean, if you say so, whatever. Now, I am of the belief, having never given birth to a child, that whatever a woman has to do in the delivery room to get that baby out or to get the process going is absolutely fair game. I thought that their reaction to the video was ridiculous, and people were talking about how undignified it was and how it was so unseemly for a woman with a royal title to behave in that fashion. Well, childbirth is not a dignified experience from what I've seen. There's a lot of screaming and bleeding and sweating and yelling and cursing out of the man who put you in the position in the first place. So, as I said, whatever a woman has to do to get that baby out of her body safely, I am completely in favor of. I could not give a fuck less about what her title is, what the royal family thought of it, and obviously she doesn't care either, and neither does Harry. So, oh, Jarella, I don't think that you've taken a look at what the British press has had to say. There was a lot of pearl clutching over the undignified behavior on the part of Meghan Markle and her husband in the delivery room. I thought it was absurd. Having said that, hi, Cheryl. Having said that, now you know that she's got that brand As Ever, right? And they did a very anemic launch where they released fruit spread, not jam, not jelly, fruit spread, mixes for crepes and cookies, some teas, and edible flowers. It was underwhelming. Oh, and honey. Honey also. So the reviews that I saw were less than stellar. People said that the products were overpriced and that there was nothing particularly special about the product line that she released. So now what she's saying is she wants to release her own rosé, because apparently rosé has a special meaning to her and to Harry. And she also wants to get into the hotel and restaurant trade, which is very, very funny because, as we all know, the hotel and restaurant businesses are extremely competitive. It is very expensive to launch these businesses. And some people are saying that maybe this is her way of distracting from the delivery room twerking video. And others, and I tend to agree with this assessment, others are saying that she just doesn't know what the hell she's doing. And one particularly funny tidbit that I have to share is that I was watching one of these British news programs that I love watching. And the host was talking about the rosé thing, her releasing a line of rosé. And he was saying that apparently, some of you may know that Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, when they were still married, bought a chateau in France. The chateau has a vineyard attached to it. Now, the chateau and the vineyard have been the focus of a legal battle that has been going on for around 10 years. And God only knows when that's going to be over. However, somewhere along the way, they managed to produce a rosé. The chateau's name is Miraval. And from what I understand, it is an excellent rosé. It got off to a rocky start. They did a different grape combination, or I don't know what they did, but apparently the rosé is absolutely first rate. And so if we're talking about celebrity rosés, if you're a rosé fan, give the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie rosé brand a try. Rosé lovers and experts say that it's delicious. I decided not to just go based on that guy's review, but I read some other reviews as well, and people were giving it a generally favorable review. Anyway, all right, so with that out of the way, oh, and I just wanted to touch on these LA riots. It feels like it was just yesterday that LA erupted in violence, flames, looting, and so on. But it seemed like the last time that it happened, maybe I'm just imagining things. Maybe I'm looking back on with rose-colored glasses. It seemed like last time, at least the police were trying to get the shit under control. And there's a lot of tussling between Gavin Newsom, the mayor of LA, and the Trump administration about what can be done to quell these riots, to get them under control. Now, I think that what we need this time is what we had last time. And what I'm talking about are the rooftop Koreans who were incredible. Go look it up on Google. The Korean business owners who got out their weapons and went on the roofs of buildings and decided to protect their property by any means necessary. And they weren't fucking around, these Koreans. So, I don't know, maybe where these riots are taking place is far away from Koreatown. I'm guessing that that's the reason that we haven't seen the reemergence of the rooftop Koreans. And maybe the looting hasn't reached Koreatown yet. But what's happening is an absolute fucking disgrace. I was watching a video this morning with Negz. It was a CNN interview with Karen Bass, who's the mayor of Los Angeles. And it was a split screen. It was one of those very shady split screens where on one side you had the two anchors and Karen Bass, and on the other side you had B-roll from the riots. And Karen Bass is sitting there, and I love it when producers do this. It's so delightful. Karen Bass is sitting there talking about how the protests are largely peaceful and so on. And on the other side of the split screen, you have the fires, the burning of the American flags, the rampaging through the streets, the federal agents and the police and the sheriff's deputies who were firing tear gas at the demonstrators. It was a beautiful moment in TV history. It's not the first time I've seen it, but I haven't seen it in a while. So, At some point, these cities are all going to have to get the memo. And that memo is, if you allow these mobs to take to the streets and engage in violence and looting and attack certain communities at will, kill people from certain communities, target them for execution at will, eventually other communities are going to get the memo. And they are going to say, well, shit, nobody's going to do anything to me. What's going to happen to me? What's the worst that can happen? You know, I'm in a sanctuary city. I'm in a sanctuary state. Nobody gets arrested for jack shit around here. So I'm just going to go wild out, and I am going to commit acts of violence. I'm going to go crazy. This was a lesson that was learned during BLM, then after October 7th, and now we're seeing it again in LA. It seems like nobody can get arrested in New York City, or if they do, it's a catch and release program. The whole thing is a disaster. We are headed towards anarchy in these cities if somebody doesn't put an end to it. And I don't know what it's going to take, but whatever is being done now is not working. It's not fucking working. All right. Although I was delighted to see that the guy who was responsible for one of the accounts that was responsible for doxing ICE agents and putting their lives in danger has himself been doxed, including his criminal history. And he's now basically vanished into thin air. And I think that he's probably going to be getting a knock on the door from the feds for exposing the identity of these ICE officers who are acting legally in their legal capacity as officers of immigration and customs enforcement. It's insane. Absolutely fucking insane. And I don't blame them for covering their faces. And I noticed that the people who are very vexed about these ICE agents covering their faces really aren't bothered by the fact that Antifa and the Palestinian protesters and the students cover their faces. But maybe that'll all get sorted out eventually. All right, now let's go on to this Simone Biles, Riley Gaines mess. Now, I am going to be featuring Irene BritUSA today. I love her channel. I think that she is fantastic. She provides great commentary. And this Riley Gaines, Simone Biles thing, it appears to be over now. That has been something that has been floated for years now. And I don't think that Gavin Newsom has a chance in hell of winning a goddamn thing. He probably can't even get reelected governor if he decides to run again. The state of California, which has the 6th largest economy in the world, is in big, big trouble. And that is largely due to his leadership, if you can even call it that. So, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No way. So, anyway, let's check out what Irene BritUSA had to say. She gave a good summary, and Simone Biles has had to backtrack, which I think is fucking hilarious. So let's see what Irene had to say.
Down Riley Gaines and telling her that she should be supporting the trans community and that she lost and that she should accept the fact that she lost is probably the most disgusting thing I've seen in a long time. It's Simone Biles. I don't know who she owes. I don't know who paid her to say that. But it is 100% paid. To go one step further and tweet that Riley Gaines, her actual competition, and quote unquote, pick on somebody your own size would be a male. This is the reason I'm publicly coming out and saying this. I've never been a fan of Simone Biles. She's always been a mean girl.
Now, I'm going to say this. I have been very heartened to see how many Black women have come out in support of Riley Gaines and against Simone Biles. I am not going to take away any of Simone Biles' accomplishments. She is the greatest female gymnast of all time. In terms of medals, in terms of accolades, in terms of championships, and so on. Nobody can come close to Simone Biles. I don't know why Simone Biles decided to stick her head above the parapet and go after Riley Gaines at this time. I don't know what it was that triggered her to do it, but the whole thing backfired absolutely spectacularly. And Simone Biles has been knocked down a few pegs, and I think that she had it coming. She absolutely had it coming. I don't give a fuck how many Olympic medals this woman won. Okay, Simone Biles was, thank you, Beth, for becoming a member. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Simone, I noticed that all these bitches like the Rapinoe woman and Simone Biles get very bold after they retire, and all of a sudden they have a lot to say. But Simone Biles competed in a sport where there was absolutely no chance that an intact male would be able to compete with the women on the women's team, okay? For a number of reasons. One, the equipment that's used. There is no man that could compete, an intact man, okay, intact. I'm not talking about some kid who took puberty blockers at 11 and got the surgery and then decided to compete against the women. I'm not talking about somebody like that. I'm talking about the equivalent of a Leah Thomas, right? Imagine an intact male competing on the uneven parallel bars. Imagine that. It's absurd. The male anatomy cannot conform, let's say, to the uneven parallel bars without doing serious damage to the twig and berries, number one. Number two, female gymnastics, and male gymnastics as well, let's not write that off, favor, let's just stick with the women for a minute, favor very, very tiny women, preferably under 5 feet tall, with a very short torso, very low in weight. Okay. How many men do you know who would be able to compete against the women? And the reason is center of gravity, and the lighter you are and the smaller you are, the better your chances of developing amplitude, of mastering the equipment in female gymnastics. And the men are very small too, for men. But there is no chance that an intact man will ever be able to audition or try out for a women's gymnastics team, get a place, and compete. It's preposterous. The idea is ludicrous. All right, so it's very easy for Simone Biles to come out against men competing in women's sports when she knows goddamn well that there's very little chance that a man will ever be able to compete on a women's gymnastics team. But let's continue.
You guys just never paid attention to the signs.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So the backlash continues, even to the point where people are saying that it's too harsh, that perhaps Riley needs to back off.
Nope.
Whereas the majority of people seem to believe that it is warranted. Simone went too far by attacking Riley's appearance. Defending males who want to identify as a woman, she turns around and compares a woman to a man, something that has actually been done to Black women for the longest time. And people are calling her out for that too. As a Black woman, why are you defending an ideology that compares Black women to men?
Exactly.
We'll get into that as well. So we had the New York Post saying that Riley Gaines' response to Simone Biles was vile. Riley Gaines issues vile response to Olympian Simone Biles' critique
What a ridiculous
of
headline.
Minnesota trans athlete. Now, a lot of the time, these are clickbait headlines when you read the article. The actual body of the article doesn't necessarily mirror the headline itself. But in this case, they were basically saying that her response was a low blow in reference to Riley mentioning Dr. Lazier, the monster who abused all those female athletes.
Dr. Larry Nassar, actually, is his name. And the story of Larry Nassar is so grim and so disgusting. I mean, you guys can look it up, but Simone Biles was a victim of Dr. Larry Nassar, who is mercifully in jail where he belongs.
But then the New York Post decided to change their headline after receiving a lot of backlash for saying that Riley Gaines' response was vile, when it was simply pointing out the fact that, as somebody who has spoken out against SA against female athletes and who has experienced that,
right?
Why would you be for men going into women's locker rooms?
Exactly.
Why would you be for men competing against female athletes and injuring them? Why would you be for that as a female athlete yourself and as somebody who's advocated for female athletes to be safe? Hey, New York Post, the vast majority of your readers and everyone else is Team Riley Gaines on this. Very poor reading of the room to call the majority response vile. Boys aren't girls, men aren't women. Cheating is cheating. Why so tone deaf? This is the vile response Riley Gaines posted to Simone Biles. How is it vile to want to protect young girls from sexually deviant men?
Exactly.
New York Post. Do you think men should be allowed in little girls' locker rooms? It now says this. Riley Gaines pulls no punches with blunt response to Simone Biles' insults and spat over trans athletes.
That's better.
He pulled no punches. Conservative anti-trans activist Riley Gaines couldn't resist going for the low blow in her ongoing online spat.
It was not a low
with
blow.
Gold medal winning gymnast Simone Biles. And then we have USA Today with another ridiculous headline supporting Simone Biles and saying that it's a sign of her greatness. Defending men competing in women's sports is a sign of her greatness, apparently. And then they proceed to state lies as if they are facts and forget that sports has categories. Simone Biles shows her greatness again in standing up for transgender community.
Oh, God.
Now, granted, this is an opinion piece, yet when they lie, they don't say that this is my opinion, my uneducated opinion. They make the statement as if it's fact. There is no scientific evidence that transgender women athletes have a physical advantage over cisgender women athletes. First of all, this is somebody still using the term cisgender in 2025. And second of all, this is somebody who just stated something that is inaccurate.
Exactly.
That is a lie, as if it was fact. Thirdly, this whole transgender women athletes sounds nice, but what we're referring to is men.
Yes.
That's what we're referring to. We're referring to men. So this is saying that men have no physical advantage over women when it comes to sports. That male athletes have no advantage over female athletes, which is absolutely untrue, because if that was the case, we wouldn't need categories in sports. Male bodies have physical capabilities that female bodies do not possess, and we know this. If it wasn't for categories in sports, women wouldn't be able to participate. It's as simple as that, because of those advantages. Then on top of that, why do they always ignore the fact that a lot of female athletes, especially in our high schools, aren't even competing against males who are on medications?
Right.
Males who are so-called transitioning.
Correct.
Many of them are simply competing against boys who have done nothing but declare themselves to be girls now.
Look at that.
So let's not
Look at the
act
spectacle of that.
as if these female athletes are up against weakened male athletes on medications, on a lot of estrogen, who are suppressing their testosterone. A lot of the time that is simply not the case, because these sporting bodies don't even require that, especially in high school sports. In Connecticut, the girls who are in a court case at the moment, they were competing against boys who are not required to be on anything.
Amazing.
And just because a male athlete lowers his performance against other males, so yes, you're on estrogen, you're destroying your body with these medications, and you will lower your performance and your abilities, but only against other males. They still retain advantages over female athletes. That is a fact.
Correct.
And we're not just hormones. We're not just height, Simone Biles. There's a lot more to the differences between men and women than those factors. The USA Today, this is an embarrassment that you publish such nonsense, and that you would call a female athlete tearing down other female athletes who are coming up behind her, who have to contend with something that she didn't have to contend with. Greatness.
And and this is the thing that kills me about all of it. Caitlyn Jenner has taken a very, very strong stance against males competing in women's sports. Yeah, Caitlyn Jenner has made absolutely no secret of her opposition to this matter. I think that what really hurts about all of it is the unbelievable, colossal betrayal. At a time when female athletes should be supporting one another, regardless of the sport, for Simone Biles to come out of nowhere. I mean, I don't recall a single instance, and maybe you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't recall a single instance of Simone Biles ever speaking out on this matter prior to this attack on Riley Gaines. I don't know what possessed her. And speaking of vile and low blows, to then say that Riley Gaines looks like a man. Does anybody here think that Riley Gaines looks like a man? She absolutely does not look like a man. Riley Gaines is 5'5" tall, very, very feminine. And the irony here is that Simone Biles is the one who has openly admitted that she was very self-conscious when people would say that she looked like a man. I think that she tweeted this out in 2018, that she used to cover herself up because she was so upset when people said that she had a very masculine physique. But Riley Gaines, there is nothing masculine or manly about Riley Gaines, not even close.
One woman insulting another woman and comparing her to a man is by no means greatness. And unfortunately, all it takes is for people to read headlines. All it takes is for somebody to read an outright lie in a publication and then run with it. Because people are incapable of thinking for themselves. Apparently, Simone Biles is incapable of thinking for herself.
It makes me think about how we've also seen other women policed in a similar way, which I think, you and I've talked a lot about, something I've talked a lot about online, which is that this isn't new, right? Like you being policed this way or you being ridiculed this way is perhaps new for you, but it's not new for like women's sports, right? No. We've seen this happen repeatedly for especially Black and brown women, any woman that deviates from this like image of womanhood. And I think, I don't know, for me, it's always so important to have people remember that.
Yeah.
No, Leah Thomas is not a woman. Leah Thomas is not deviating from the image of womanhood. Leah Thomas is a man. Leah Thomas is a man cosplaying a woman. The end. No matter how many surgeries you get, no matter how much estrogen you take, no matter what you do, as a man, you will always be a fucking man. Full stop, period, at the end. All right? So, and this bullshit about that women who are Black or brown are singled out because they don't, let's say, they don't adhere to the definition of femininity. They don't correspond to our definition of femininity. The only times, and granted, I haven't gone back through the entire history of sports to take a look at who those people were that she put up on that this guy put up on the screen. I don't know who those athletes are. I can tell you that when it comes to people like Caster Semenya is intersex. Caster Semenya has internal testes. Caster Semenya, for all intents and purposes, is a man. Caster Semenya has XY chromosomes. I don't give a damn how Caster Semenya was socialized, raised, whatever. Caster Semenya is a man by definition, biologically by definition. I have a lot of questions, by the way, about Brittany Griner. If you take a look at Brittany Griner, the deep voice, the Adam's apple, the unusually long arms and legs, the huge hands and feet. I think Brittany Griner is either 6'7" or 6'9". The voice, and when I saw pictures of Brittany Griner with, I'll say her for the sake of argument, with her shirt off, and Brittany Griner does not have a female physique. No hips, no female curves. And if you look at Brittany Griner's chest, it is a man's chest. It is the chest of a man. And there are no surgical scars there to indicate that Brittany Griner has had a double mastectomy. Brittany Griner, I would be very curious to see what Brittany Griner's genetics test would turn up. I am guessing XY chromosomes. There was an event, I believe at the Rio Olympics, where the 3 quote-unquote women who medaled in track and field, and I'm not sure which event it was, I believe all 3 of them were intersex, meaning that all 3 of them had XY chromosomes. I'm asking you, how is this fair? How is this fair to have women who produce an inordinate amount of testosterone above and beyond the normal limit for women? How is this any fairer than the doping that happened in the former Soviet Union and the former Soviet Union countries like East Germany? If you take a look at what happened in the 1970s in swimming, and how the East German women were coming out with these very masculine physiques with facial hair and everything else. And that was considered to be cheating. But somehow, putting XY chromosomed individuals up against women in a sport that involves speed or strength, etc., is considered to be fair play. And yeah, Iman Khalif, the boxer who won the gold medal, the Algerian, we just got the results of his genetics test, and what a shock that the person is male. Thank you very much. We could have told you that. I mean, it's like, who are you going to believe, us or your lion eyes? Well, I decided to believe my lion eyes. And it is a disgrace, and I want that man and the one from Hong Kong or the one from Korea, whatever his country was. I want these men stripped of their medals, and I want those medals given to the silver medalist, and then on the way down, the silver medalist gets the gold, the bronze medalist gets the silver, and then the other one, the one that placed 4th, gets the bronze. And there should be a massive lawsuit against the Olympics Committee, and especially the boxing division of the Olympics Committee. It is grotesque what has been allowed to happen. So, I really don't think so. I don't think so. If Brittany Griner has a vagina and was playing women's sports, I don't think that the Russians would have given a shit. But in terms of fairness, in terms of competition, or just in terms of figuring out what's what, my feeling is that Brittany Griner has XY chromosomes. I think that Brittany Griner is more male than female, but if the WNBA doesn't give a shit, then what am I supposed to do about it? I'm just stating my personal opinion.
It's very important for everybody to remember that this policing of trans women and this transphobia is not sort of isolated on its own. It's part of this broader system of trying to police people's bodies and especially women's bodies. And that comes down on mostly marginalized groups.
No. Regulating whether or not trans women compete against women, to say that it's marginalizing women, absolutely not. It's women who are fighting back against this. Whatever your name is. Schuyler, if that is your name. If that's how you pronounce it. It's women who are fighting back. Natal, biological, XX chromosome women who are fighting back against the Leah Thomases and men and women's sports. Do not lump us all together, and do not turn the plight of male athletes who want to cheat and win into a feminist struggle. Absolutely fucking not. This is where I draw the line, and this is where many of us have drawn the line. We've had enough.
Trans women, black and brown women.
But these types of bans specifically against transgender women in women's category sports are not just going to impact transgender women. These bans impact all athletes in the women's category.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope that every single man who decided to identify as a woman and compete against natal women, actual women, I hope they're all excluded. Every single one. Without fail, without exception. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Because in order to exclude transgender women, you need to know which women are transgender.
Yes.
And this demands policing the entire women's category.
Yes, that's what we're asking for. Yes. You are getting the hint, but you're making it sound like this is a bad thing. And you know, it's very simple. Take a simple cheek swab. It is not invasive. It's very easy. Nobody has to pull their pants down. You don't have to go to a gynecologist. Nobody has to look, in your underpants. A cheek swab would resolve all of these problems. Yes, we want the entire women's category policed. God damn it. All of it.
What point is a woman too fast, too strong, too good at her sport to then be accused of being transgender, accused of not being woman enough? This hurts all women, and especially those already deemed not woman enough by some system of oppression.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If a woman, a natal woman with XX chromosomes, is unusually tall, unusually strong, whatever, and you can determine that that person is XX, they have nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. What are you talking about? And why are you mansplaining this to my audience? This is mansplaining par excellence, and I'm so fucking sick and tired of having men explain to women why it is that men need to be protected in a women's category. I think that women know what's best for us. I think we're very, very well aware. We're not falling for the old okey doke. We're not going to roll over and play dead for the sake of placating men's egos in sports. Absolutely not. Abso-fucking-lutely not. And I had told you guys before, more than once, that I was sick and goddamn tired of discussing this topic. I never wanted to talk about the transgender topic ever again, but Simone Biles pulled me back in. And listening to this horse shit is like, grr.
Black women, brown women, trans women, intersex women, the list goes on.
So that person is actually female and wants female athletes to be concerned about being mistaken for a man. Yet we can prove we're female, including this person.
Exactly.
Very easy to do that. I myself was even called out by a male who identifies as a woman because I was defending my friend April Hutchinson, who doesn't want to compete against men. And this person had the nerve to tell me that as a black woman, I should be siding with him. I should be supporting him, because if it can happen to him, it can happen to me.
No, it can't. And this is the ugly side of intersectionality. That all of these so-called oppressed groups have to come together, even if they have absolutely nothing in common. Nothing in common. And they have to defend each other without asking any questions, without using any critical thinking skills. And even if, for example, with Irene here, if what she would be advocating for would go against her best interests. Now, I know that Irene is not an athlete. I get it. But to assume that because Irene is black, that she would naturally side with a transgender man over black women who are being discriminated against in sports because they have to give up a medal or a scholarship or something like that to a man is grotesque to me. It really is an indication that we are through the fucking looking glass. So no. All this shit should be dead and buried by now. The woke stuff, the intersectionality, because it makes absolutely no sense.
As if we're the same. Yes. So this is the ideology that Simone Biles supports. This person believes because I'm a black woman, he has the right to tell me how to think and spew racist rhetoric. This is the same movement that uses terminology such as segregation when we're talking about categories in sports.
Oh my
These
God.
are the same people who compare their movement of wanting to cheat, of men wanting to compete in women's sports, to black women being denied opportunities in sports.
Right.
And black men being denied opportunities in sports because of racism. They have convinced people that this is a new civil rights issue. Men wanting to cheat in sports.
Which is
and gain
ludicrous.
what they couldn't achieve while competing against other men. No.
Imagine turning cheating in sports into a civil rights issue and comparing it to Selma, Montgomery, or anything of that nature. It just boggles the fucking mind. And unfortunately, because we live in a country, this is the United States I'm talking about, and I'm sure that if you're in Canada, if you're in any of these other Western countries, you probably face a similar problem. Nobody studies the history of their own country. People are getting their information off of TikTok, off of Twitter, and they don't know their own fucking history. To compare men cheating in sports to the civil rights movement is, it boggles the mind. Absolutely not. Let's continue.
So yes, Simone Biles is being called out for supporting this insanity and supporting something that has perpetuated racism against black people. Not to mention the black female athletes who have been denied state championships, who have been denied medals and opportunities, whose scholarships have been affected.
That's right.
And Simone was called out by this person on X called Dr. P. I don't know this person personally. This is an anonymous account because this is the profile picture is Wakanda, Wakanda forever. But I'll read some of the tweet and you can read the full post on my X account. I reposted it. It says, "Dear Simone Biles, as a Western black woman who's old enough to be your grandmother, I'm going to bring race into this. You are defending trans people, a group that routinely compare black women to men.
Correct.
We, including you, are regarded as a less feminine, a less appealing iteration of femaleness.
That's right.
Who by biology are more analogous to trans women than are our white counterparts. By supporting the concept that one can identify out of or into a chosen demographic, you are also defiling the memory and struggles of our ancestors. How many of them could identify out of being black? Even those who tried to pass. How many were able to identify out of being called boy or girl or the M word? How many of them were able to identify out of chattel, slavery, and then Jim Crow?
Chattel.
The world is real, Simone. We cannot alter it by magical thinking, and nobody is obliged to participate in another person's delusions that they have changed sex."
That's right.
So this is very well written. I'm just reading it in part. He also goes on to say, "You betray all girls, regardless of their race, who want to achieve sporting success. And you worsen this betrayal by comparing Riley Gaines to a man. The very same accusations made against black women, the very same accusations made against you and your style of gymnastics. And it's not just about what happens in public. Women and girls have been forced to change and shower and undress in front of boys and men.
That's right.
Their public violation is compounded by a loss of privacy, of safety, of bodily autonomy."
Correct.
How can you give fearful testimony against Larry Nassar and so movingly describe the horror you experienced, yet be blind to the horrors faced by other women and girls?
Very good
So I just
question.
thought that was very, very well said there. So go and read the full version on X. Oh yeah, and just for clarification, Riley Gaines did not lose to Leah Thomas. Riley Gaines tied
That's right.
with Leah Thomas. She tied with a male athlete. She didn't lose to this person. I think they tied fifth, and it was the male athlete who got the trophy because
That's
it
right.
made for good publicity apparently back then.
Correct.
Certainly wouldn't make for good publicity now. And as we can see, Simone Biles is not receiving good publicity over her tweets.
She goes on to say, but instead you bully them. One thing's for sure, no one in sports is safe with you around. I can't even make sense of that last part, actually. Then out of the blue, she tweeted this: bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a male, which is hilarious, really for two reasons. Number one, she's acknowledging there are differences, like physiological, biological differences between men and women in saying this. Secondly, I'm 5'5", which might seem like a giant to someone who's like 4'7", 4'8", but I'm pretty standard size for a woman. I guess.
You know, Riley, sis, if it is any consolation to you, I too have been compared to a man by strangers on the internet on more than one occasion, and I am a whopping 5'2". Okay, so welcome to the club, I guess. But you look nothing like a man. You are a delightful, lovely, very, very feminine woman. So,
yes, like relatively muscular, right? Being an athlete, I would imagine Simone would understand that. But I weigh like 135 pounds, 5'5", of pretty much pure muscle. And again, if anyone would understand that, you would think it's Simone Biles, a woman who has historically been scrutinized for having a very muscular, masculine-looking body. Correct. She was scrutinized to the point she did this whole body positivity campaign. Then she has the nerve to say that I look like a man.
That's right.
And not to mention, this is a woman who has been incredibly brave in calling out and witnessing the horrific sexual abuse that she and hundreds of other female gymnasts faced at the hands of one sexual predator, that predator being Larry Nassar.
That's right.
In the same breath, believing that vulnerable women should be forced to strip down naked in front of men in locker rooms so long as it makes the man feel happy. If Larry Nassar came out as trans, would Simone think it's responsible or safe for him to be housed in a women's prison?
I would love for Simone Biles to answer that question. I really would be curious to hear what she has to say about that. Because it's not like that never happened in prison. It's happened quite frequently in the past decade or so, where men are like, oh my God, shit, I am going to prison for molesting children or for rape or killing my wife or whatever. Holy shit, I'd better slap that wig on and claim that I am a woman. And if you think I'm crazy, take a look at the many cases where this exact thing has happened. And there have been studies that have been done that show that once these men are released from prison, upwards of half of them go back to being men. So it is totally opportunistic, because they know they can get away with this shit, especially in states like California. And until recently in the UK, this was also a problem. But there are men housed, dangerous, predatory men housed in women's prisons in this country. I have been speaking out against this for years. And it is disgraceful. It is disgraceful what has happened. In the West, we have lost our minds collectively to allow this shit to happen. You know, we think that these transgender prisoners are all like, you know, Laverne Cox on Orange is the New Black, or the transgender prisoner on Wentworth. No, these are aggressive, violent, predatory men who lie and say that they are transgender to be put in a women's prison because, of course, you've got to let the fox in the chicken coop. And then they prey on women while they're in there. And if the women complain, they're the ones who get in trouble. It is grotesque. Let's continue.
To be very, very clear, I could care less what Simone Biles says about me. I'm a very...
Well, hello, No Name. It is so good to see you. Thank you. And thank you for your very, very kind donation. I'm glad to see you. Thank you so much. Generous as always, and it's lovely to have you here.
Secure person. I know I'm on the right side of history. I'm married, so if she wants to say I look like a man, I literally could care less. The most heartbreaking part about this for me is the platform that she has and the amount of young girls who look up to her, that right. She just in a blink of an eye sold out to appear to be virtuous.
But
what
why,
we saw
though?
From Simone is the definition of pulling up the ladder behind you, something people like Meghan Rapinoe have also done. I have a feeling that if Simone's inclusive dream came true, she would have 0 Olympic medals and no one would even know who she is.
So it's very disappointing, and Simone has been compared to a female athlete who's removed the ladder. for other women and girls who aspire to be the next Simone Biles. Well, I've made it and I've been successful, but you can compete with the men now. If safety and fairness was really a focus, no female athlete should have to deal with this. And yes, Megan Rapinoe, another one who's never had to compete against a male athlete.
Right.
Another one who's never suffered a broken knee or a concussion as a result of competing against a male athlete. Her virtue signaling is more important.
Sure.
Trans rights are human rights. This is another image that someone made. Oh my goodness. And J.K. Rowling said the following about removing the ladder. High-achieving women who pull up the ladder behind them are owed no fealty from other women.
I agree.
You can be a useful idiot for male cosplayers and cheats, or you can fight to ensure that girls who follow in your footsteps have a fair shot. You can't do both.
Well said.
I mean, I don't really have anything else to add to that. Perfectly said. And one thing I have respected Simone Biles for is for signing up with Athleta and dumping Nike, especially after Nike were found to be discriminating against new mothers. But what's a shame is now people are calling out Athleta. Riley Gaines is saying she will never shop there again. So Jennifer atted Athleta and said, your ambassador Simone Biles bullied Riley Gaines by saying that she should, quote, bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a male, implying Gaines is male because she has muscles. How does this help with your mission of, quote, empowering women and girls?
Good question.
Do you stand by this, Athleta? So it's a real shame that Simone Biles is tarnishing not only her own brand, but other brands as well. And the reason why people are wondering if Simone was put up to this, if Simone is getting paid, it's been alleged, if someone...
You guys, the bullying is out of control in chat. It is out of control. Ladies, nobody's going to be carrying anybody around in a backpack, okay? This is not going to happen, not on my watch. We are going to sit nicely and we are going to have a pleasant conversation. But this is crazy. You all need to calm down.
Campaign her to push this rhetoric and to come against people like Riley Gaines. Now, I don't know about her being paid, but it wouldn't surprise me if she is signaling to those people, look how great I am. I'm standing up for trans athletes, part of my greatness. But one telling thing is that Simone Biles is well aware of the differences between men and women. Even in gymnastics, the women don't do exactly the same thing that the male gymnasts do because they don't have the upper body strength. And unlike USA Today, Simone Biles is well aware that males have advantages, physical advantages, over females.
Yeah, you see, now here's Simone Biles, who is the greatest female gymnast of all time. I don't know who the man is. Doesn't even matter, because I think that the move that he just showed, I think it's called the Thomas Flare. I'm not quite certain. I know that it's a move that's done in the floor exercise and on the pommel horse. It requires an enormous amount of upper body strength and tremendous core strength as well. Those male gymnasts may be small, but they're mighty, okay? And she couldn't do it. And she is the most highly decorated female gymnast in history. So, yep, let's continue.
Well aware of that, and has been thankful in the past that we don't have men competing against women, as her old tweets reveal. Oop. Don't you hate it when your past self completely undermines your current nonsensical argument? How has 2025 Simone reconciled with the fact 2017 Simone was a truly sick bully, quote unquote, by her own standard? And this is what she tweeted in 2017. Good thing guys don't compete against girls, but he'll take all the gold medals. And this is exactly what female athletes have to deal with today. Fast forward 2025. Girls have to watch boys take all the gold medals, take spots on the podium. This is why the CIF recently changed their policy to include the girls, how good of them, so that they don't get spots taken from them and medals taken from them and displaced by male athletes. Still forcing them to compete against male athletes though, aren't they? And they have to share their podium spot now.
And this is the thing. I mean, we talk a lot about college. We talk a lot about the Olympics. What we're not talking about is high school. And that is a real shame. because by the time boys get to high school, they've gone through puberty, and there should be no question that these boys should not be competing with women. I'm going to stop this one, and I'm going to play the next one, because Simone Biles came out with an apology of a kind that was bizarre. It sounded like it was written by a committee of ChatGPT apps. It made absolutely no sense. It was incoherent. And it was met with a great deal of laughter and scoffing. So let's hear what this lovely lady, Irene BritUSA, had to say about Simone Biles's shitty apology. Incomprehensible. Let's go.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So we have some developments in the Simone Biles versus Riley Gaines saga. Simone Biles has apologized.
Sort of.
And Riley Gaines has responded to her apology. So let's take a look. We had Jemele Hill, no surprises there, defending Simone Biles initially, saying, Simone Biles is a far better human being than you'll ever be. You are a trash person who can't stop terrorizing a group of people for your own gain.
Terrorizing.
Weaponizing SA is disgusting
Is
and
it?
shows you lack integrity, honor, and decency. I promise you will one day need the compassion you lack. That was Jemele Hill's response to Riley Gaines, pointing out the fact that boys being allowed in girls' locker rooms isn't a good idea, even in the name of...
Raven, the link to this lady's channel is in my description box. But yeah, absolutely. Hang on. Yeah, I'll put it in chat. Irene BritUSA, she is absolutely fabulous. We love her. All right. She's a DCMediagirl community favorite. All right. Let's continue.
sports, even in the name of gender identity. Stephen A. Smith said that Riley Gaines went too far when she brought the convicted offender Larry Nassar into the discussion. He said, respectfully, Gaines, I was with you until that last quote. Respectfully, that's going a bit too far.
Really?
Talking about transgender women in sports is one issue. Using a guy like Larry Nassar, one of the most despicable human beings we've ever witnessed on this earth, who molested and abused numerous women, numerous gymnasts, including Biles, to go that low, Gaines, you lost all credibility.
More mansplaining.
You could have made your argument without going that far. No
Dude,
matter
shut
what
up.
Simone Biles said to you, how she may disagree with you on your position,
Thank you, Beth.
did not warrant you to go that far. Certainly, you're not suggesting that it was okay for her to be molested.
No.
Certainly, you're not suggesting it was okay for her to be abused.
You dishonest motherfucker. How dare you even make that suggestion? Where in the world did you conclude? Why did you conclude that that was what she said? Absolutely not. And you know goddamn well that's not what she was implying. God, fuck you, Stephen. Seriously, go fuck yourself.
So why would you say something like that? That's just cruel. Just because she said something that hurt your feelings didn't mean that you had to double down on it by being a gazillion times worse, which, Riley Gaines, is what you are at this particular moment in time. I'm speaking specifically about you going that far. Having said that, the points that you made to Simone Biles outside of the Larry Nassar comment, that should give us all cause to pause. The reality is that it is a disservice to women in a lot of people's eyes.
Oh, really?
She did say, to make my position on both topics very, very clear, I hope Larry Nassar spends the rest of his life rotting away and miserable in prison. Gymnasts were failed by a system that protected an abusive man at the expense of the girls' safety.
That's right.
Men don't belong in women's sports. Female athletes continue to be failed by a system that protects abusive men at the expense of the girls' safety.
Yep.
So that's what she posted after the initial tweet.
And by the way, I do want to point out, okay, and I would be remiss if I didn't point this out. We have a sitting congressman on the Hill named Jim Jordan, who was an assistant wrestling coach at a university in Ohio that was hit with a scandal involving the sexual molestation. It was sexual misconduct on the part of the coaches of this men's wrestling team. Jim Jordan knew about it. He didn't say anything about it. And when he has been confronted about it, he has changed the subject very quickly. Jim Jordan knows a great deal about what happened. And the young men who were on that wrestling team never got justice. The men who were preyed on, young men who were preyed on, never received justice. And the sexual molestation and the sexual assaults that they endured while they were on this team was with them for the rest of their lives. It had a terrible impact on them going forward into adulthood. And so I don't think that we should overlook the fact that men are also preyed on. And for some reason, wrestling seems to be a sport that attracts a lot of degenerates and perverts into the coaching, into coaching. I don't know what it is. The former Speaker of the House, Denny Hastert, was also a wrestling coach, I believe at a high school. And he was involved in some fuck shit with a younger man and paid off, bought his silence. And Denny Hastert got in a lot of legal trouble. He rose to the speakership of the House of Representatives. But meanwhile, Jim Jordan has never had to face justice and never had to come forward and state under oath what exactly it was that he saw and who did what to whom on that wrestling team. So, predators come in all shapes, forms, sexes, whatever. And I hate it when young athletes are preyed on and they don't get justice. This is my point. The Larry Nassar episode was like catching lightning in a bottle. That's how rare it was. So let's continue.
Well, fast forward today, everybody weighing in, giving their opinion about this situation. Simone Biles has now officially apologized via X. She said the following: I wanted to follow up from my last tweets.
Okay, guys, strap in for this apology. Okay, strap in, because I'm telling you, it is like dueling ChatGPT. I cannot believe that an actual human being wrote this apology, but let's continue.
I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sport. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges, and it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect.
Okay, what the fuck is she talking about? They are not complicated issues. What is complicated about shutting men out of women's sports? These are not sensitive or complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to. But it starts with empathy and respect. What the fuck are you talking about? No, it starts with barring men from women's sports. Empathy and respect for whom? No. The only people deserving of empathy and respect are XX chromosome natal women who compete against one another. The rest of it is nonsense. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to let her finish.
I was not advocating for politics that compromise fairness in women's sports.
Yes, you were.
My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful.
What children... Please, would somebody please tell me what children were mentioned in any of these exchanges? What children were singled out for public scrutiny? When did Riley Gaines mention children? Why is Simone Biles bringing this up? It makes absolutely no fucking sense. Let's continue.
Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Now, I will grant her the thing about the kids. I grant her that. Individual athletes, let's see. Individual athletes should, leave out the thing about the kids. Individual athletes should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. Are you fucking kidding? You're goddamn right that I'm going to criticize Leah Thomas or Iman Khalif or the other one from Hong Kong or wherever he was from, the other one that medaled at the Olympics. Yes, they need to be called out and criticized. 100%. All these cheaters need to be called out, criticized, and barred from women's sports. Yes, that is an essential part of this process. Absolutely.
I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition.
No, you cannot support inclusion of men and maintain fair competition. Absolutely not. You cannot include somebody with XY chromosomes competing against women, even if they're intersex, and all of this could be solved so easily with a simple cheek swab. All of it. This is a very easy fix. Very easy. And don't believe all that nonsense and all the hype and the scare tactics about pulling little girls' pants down and subjecting them to genital inspection. Bullshit. A simple cheek swab, non-invasive, would solve this problem. Let's continue.
We all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. So, before we get into Riley's response, my response to what Simone said there. Sports is simply based on merit. Nothing is based more on merit than sports.
Correct.
And that's it. If you qualify to compete in a particular event, then you will be competing in that event. And that's all that the focus should be on. So when it comes to male athletes competing in women's sports, we are noticing that merit doesn't come into the situation because they shouldn't even be in that category to begin with.
No, they shouldn't.
And that is hurting female athletes. So in terms of inclusivity, coming up with a way to be inclusive, sports is solely based on performance, on how well you do. That's it. And we should never have deviated away from that. But everybody in sports has to compete in the correct category.
Exactly.
So that we get a true reflection of how well someone has done and how fair someone has acquired certain, accolades and titles and medals. Just like we don't accept doping, people taking performance-enhancing drugs in sports. We don't accept that because that is cheating.
Yes.
When we cross the line between merit and cheating, that is unacceptable. Male athletes competing in women's categories is a form of cheating. That is a fact. Because we know that male athletes are built differently from females. That's why.
It's really funny because I remember reading this profile of Lance Armstrong in The New Yorker years ago, long before he was found to be doping, cheating, whatever he was doing. Back when we still thought that the French were being persnickety and sore losers because he kept winning the Tour de France, and how is that possible? And in the article, it said something like, Lance Armstrong was born with a natural advantage because he was born with an unusually large heart and very large lungs, and that was the explanation for how he kept on winning. And the thing is, when I read the article, not knowing anything, and being a huge fan of Armstrong at the time, and thinking, wow, amazing, and boo French for being so, boo French for trying to accuse him of cheating during these bike races. But the thing that was nagging in the back of my mind, the thing that I could not shake was, how is it possible that Lance Armstrong famously survived testicular cancer, went through the treatment for testicular cancer, and yet, and I'm not saying that this is because the cancer was in the testicles, that's not what I'm suggesting, but anybody who has gone through cancer treatment can tell you that at the end of it, you are not the same person you were at the beginning. And I remember wondering, how is it possible that a cancer survivor who went through what he went through could possibly rally to the extent that he did, heart and lungs notwithstanding, and come back so strongly that he won all those Tour de France titles in a row? There was just something about it that bothered me. And I didn't want to be a negative Nancy, and I wanted to give him all the credit that he was due. And then it turns out that he was cheating. And I thought, oh, that's how he did it. Okay. And the way that he did it was very clever. Just like when the Russians were cheating with their doping, and not long ago. We're not talking ancient history in the 1970s. We're talking recently. They were pretty clever about it too. So, cheaters, no. We don't accept cheaters. Absolutely not.
Why we have categories to begin with. So she's apologized for getting personal with Riley, referring to her as a male or comparing her to a male athlete. Okay. But unfortunately, this is affecting children. This is affecting little girls. And in standing up for little girls, we have to point out when we see injustice against them. Simone didn't mention the locker room situation, but that is another factor. And like I said in my previous video, it isn't about a single athlete.
Oh, well, breaking news. Raven, you might want to fire up a live stream. All right. Well, I'm glad that she wasn't stubborn and stuck around in Kuwait. I'm glad that she fled under cover of darkness, I'm guessing. And good. So, here we go. Here we go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, Raven. Come on, Raven. Go out there, get your shit together, and fire up a stream. I'll be there.
It is about the system that has allowed it in the first place. But when we see it, we have to call it out. Otherwise, people are not going to know what we're dealing with here. We've seen little girls protesting in middle school, refusing to compete against a male athlete. And good on them. But as long as this affects little girls, we have to point out when there were male athletes in their competitions who shouldn't be there. And we can do so respectfully. But pointing it out in itself is just stating fact, is just stating the reality of what we're dealing with.
Correct.
Have that same energy when it comes to defending these little girls who are forced to have little boys in their locker rooms, who are forced to compete against male athletes against their will. Have that same energy for the girls, because the people being affected are also children, and they shouldn't be subjected to that. I want to accept your apology. Pick fair competition or inclusion. You can't have both. It's not fair to include boys in with girls. Riley was singling out the girls to let them know they have support against being cheated. They need to know someone is in their corner. Who wrote this? It took 48 hours to write this?
And that was my question. Jason Whitlock and I are on the same track. Who wrote this? It took 48 hours to write this. Yeah, because it is a Frankenstein monster of statements cobbled together by, I swear to you, it's ChatGPT or probably the most incompetent PR team I have ever seen in my life. because it made absolutely no sense.
These are not complicated issues unless you don't believe female human beings are deserving of the same rights and respect as males. No males belong in female sport. None. Zero. Not even the ones who really don't like playing nice with their male peers, or the ones who are really bad at sports. If there were a 15-year-old gymnast who had cheated you out of Olympic gold, Simone, would you call her out on it? Would you be frustrated if others did not call her out on it? Or would you tell the people calling her out and bringing attention to it to stop bullying kids? Absolutely ridiculous. Everyone is included in sport. Everyone just has to follow the same rules. Bodies play sports, not ideas people have about themselves. And the men and boys you attacked another woman on behalf of don't want their own category.
That's right.
This has been referred to as segregation, ghettoization, even genocide.
Genocide.
Women tried it. No one entered.
That's right.
They want to dominate women and girls in female spaces and sports.
They also want to validate their own delusional view of who they are and what they are. That's why they don't want a separate category. They want to compete against women because they have convinced themselves that they are women. And that is a problem. And it is not the job of women and girls to validate male delusions, period.
Well done for apologizing for your attack on Riley. You should probably think about the fact that the only reason you can advocate for third spaces without being condemned as an evil bigot is thanks to the work of women like her. I could read these all day. So let's see what Riley had to say. I accept Simone's apology for the personal attacks, including the ones where she body shamed me. I know she knows what this feels like. She's still the greatest female gymnast of all time.
She is.
A couple of things. Sports are inclusive by nature. Anyone can and everyone should play sports. Competition, on the other hand, and by definition, is exclusive.
Exactly.
So the idea of competitive equity is nonsensical. Secondly, the boys are publicly humiliating the girls. To suggest that women and girls must be silent or ignore a boy who is publicly hurting or humiliating them is wrong. You can't have any empathy or compassion for the girls if you're ignoring when young men are harming or abusing them. I am not...
Look, where does the Olympic Committee stand on this currently, or where have they? Because I believe that they dispensed with the cheek swab test back in the 90s because the complaint was that it was too invasive, which is preposterous. I know that there was somebody running for the head of the IOC who said that he was going to put an end to all this nonsense. I don't know where the Olympic Committee stands right now, but my understanding is that individual sports have their own standards. So that is why Iman Khalif could qualify as a boxer or to box against women, whereas Leah Thomas was not able to try out for the women's swim team. And that's something else that has to be decided. I think that all the sports across the board, no matter what they are, need to have a uniform, consistent policy about men, women, and I'm not talking about the sports where men and women compete together on teams like equestrian sports or shooting or something like that, but in the sports where men and women are separate, there has to be a uniform standard. They cannot continue allowing each sport to create their own standard. It is deeply unfair, and you end up with a farce like what we ended up with in Paris. So, absolutely not.
Not ashamed to be a voice for the voiceless. Lastly, I agree with you that the blame is on the lawmakers and leaders at the top. Precisely why I'm suing the NCAA and support candidates who vowed to stand with women. That's why I joined the real Donald Trump at the signing of an executive order. I didn't see you there or championing this effort with your platform.
Yep.
Women's sports can't be used as an excuse for girls to center the feelings and validation of men and boys.
That's right.
I welcome you to the fight to support fair sports and a future for female athletes. Little girls deserve the same shot to achieve that you had. So yeah, very well written there. The female category is exclusive.
And you can tell that Riley Gaines wrote that herself. No ChatGPT, no PR team. Nobody had to step in. Nobody had to phone a friend. She did that herself.
Excludes males. So why are we trying to find ways to incorporate men into a category that is specifically designed to exclude men? Makes no sense. Stop acting like we can think our way into including men into the female category. There's no way to include men into the female category because then it wouldn't be a female category. There's no genius solution that anyone can come up with except to destroy the female category and take that away from women and girls. That's the only outcome if we allow boys or men into that category on account of identity. So I agree with Riley. We can't claim to have compassion towards the women and girls if we're going to ignore the athletes who are causing harm to them, the male athletes who are in their category who shouldn't be there. We can't ignore that at the same time. It doesn't make sense. So let me know what you think about Simone's apology. Do you accept her apology as well? Do you think that it's adequate? It does appear that they've come to some sort of amicable understanding, so that's nice. And do you think sports needs to be more inclusive?
No.
And what do you think about Riley's response to the apology? Do you think she was very gracious and that's a good thing? Or do you think she should have been a bit more harsh? So thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.
What I think, Irene, is that you are a wonderful, intelligent content creator, and I'm glad that people in my chat were saying that they've subscribed to your channel because you really are a gift. You are a wonderful, thoughtful individual. As far as LA losing the Olympics, I can't imagine that that would happen. I can't see it. Now, I, of course, wonder every single time that I see cities putting in bids for the Olympics, I wonder, why are you doing it? They always lose money. They spend a fortune putting up those stadiums and stuff. Now, LA still has, as far as I know, they still may have some of the old facilities when they hosted the Olympics in 1984. And granted, these are facilities that are decades out of date, but I don't know how much preparation they have to do. I mean, the biggest problem in LA, quite frankly, is the traffic. But again, I don't know why any city would want to host the Olympics. Like I said, they always run behind. They always overspend. They always lose money. London's experience hosting the Olympics was an absolute disaster. If you look at what happened to the facilities that they built, they did not achieve what they wanted to achieve, which was they built certain stadiums and facilities in neighborhoods that are a little bit depressed economically, and they were hoping that bringing large groups of tourists into those neighborhoods was going to build up the local economy, and it didn't work out that way. So the Olympics turn out to be a huge boondoggle. I mean, with Greece, they always run behind. There's always corruption. There's always insanity. They're always like, I think the last time that Greece hosted, they were still banging together the stadium as people were filing in to see the opening ceremonies. It was crazy. But it's Greece. It's kind of charming, isn't it? There's a charm to Greece's inefficiency. Yeah, these cities still have these facilities. Now, whether or not they can be brought up to date is a whole other question. I mean, at least 1984 wasn't that long ago, relatively speaking. And I don't know how much new building LA is going to have to do. And as I was sitting here talking about this, I was thinking about the next World Cup, the upcoming World Cup, where the matches are going to be distributed between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And I was thinking what a shame it would be if civil unrest caused problems at these matches, because I went to a couple of World Cup matches when World Cup was in DC in '94, and it was a truly, truly wonderful, exhilarating experience. It was fabulous. And I was thinking maybe we could get tickets to go to a match in Miami and kill two birds with one stone, go back to Miami for a visit and go to a World Cup, match. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just hoping that it gets pulled off with no problems. So, all right, you guys, I want to thank you all for being here. And I can't promise that I won't be talking about the transgender thing ever again, because I have stumbled across some great content on Buck Angel's channel. We'll see, though. It's exhausting to talk about this topic. Exhausting and depressing. But anyway, all right, you guys, I want to thank you again for being here. And I will see you guys the next time. Thanks for being a great audience. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being nice. Thank you for not shoving each other in backpacks and hauling each other around. I'll see you guys later. Bye.